Hello and welcome to View from the Sideline podcast. Coming up this week, we look at the weekend's action in the Premier League with VAR causing the biggest talking point at the Etihad. Liverpool claim their second straight win, but only just. Norwich and Sheffield United get their first win since their return to the Premier League, and Lampard is still searching for his first competitive win at Chelsea. Pete has another teaser. Chris will blow your mind with his stats in Wonders of the White. And we have a record-breaking score in our predictions challenge. Lots to discuss this week, so let's get started. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 2 of View from the Sideline podcast. It's Rich here and as ever Chris is with us.
Hello Rich.
How you doing?
Not too bad, you?
Yeah, good week, but good to be back. Good weekend of football, so lots to talk about this week. Just to confirm before we get into the teaser, we are going to confirm the answer to last week's question because we had a bit of a difference of information, say, from some mainstream newspapers, but we can confirm. So the answer was France to last week's teaser, which was the country outside the UK which has supplied the Premier League with most players. So we also put a poll on our Instagram page as well, and France came out on top there. So if you ever needed proof of what the answer was, the answer is France. And just one more point before we get going. So good news for us, Chris, because it's all about us. We have received our first 5-star review on iTunes, which is great news. Whoever's left it, there's no comments, but thank you for the review. Hope you enjoy listening to the podcast. And just also a quick shout out to Norwell, who has left a very nice comment on YouTube. Obviously listens to the podcast, so it's great to hear feedback from the people that are listening to it. So we do really appreciate it. And hopefully it's the first of many. Hopefully we can start building our fan base. So let's get to it. So Pete's teaser this week. Again, we've got audio. We've managed to keep the audio with him. That's how high tech we are. So let's hear this week's question.
Okay, Rich, how many Spanish managers have won the FA Cup?
Okay, so I think I can cope with that one. I think that's still tricky, but hopefully we can. One springs to mind straight away.
One
but
definitely, yeah.
There's got to be more than one. So we'll thanks Pete for that question. Challenging as always, and we'll come back to that at the end of the podcast. So we'll go straight into the Premier League review. I think there's probably only one place we can start from the weekend's action, which would be at the Etihad. So two parts to this, Chris, I guess. So one is the game, one is the handball.
Yeah.
So where do you want to start?
Well, we'll just quickly skim over the game. Quickly. Obviously, not easy coming from behind against Man City, but obviously to do it twice in the same game is quite an achievement for Tottenham, I would say. It was a good game. Obviously, Man City taking the majority of the actual shots. I think Tottenham only had 3. Was it 2 or 3 shots?
Yeah, I think it was 3 in the end.
Two of those went in. So obviously that is a good case of actually taking your chances when they come to you. I thought it was a good game, but obviously highly overshadowed by the VAR decision at the end.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's two VAR decisions in it really. One that was looked at, and I'm talking about the penalty when I say the second incident.
Yeah.
And we should assume that was also looked at, but I'm not sure how that was not given. I've got two minds on this game, because I've got the being a Spurs fan, and then I've got the being a football fan. So for me, it's definitely a penalty. I think if you go back to the World Cup in Russia last year, anything around that sort of offence was being given as a penalty. And it was one of the things going into this season with VAR that I thought there would be an awful lot of penalties given for tussles like that in the box. So for me, that's a penalty. And the handball, I mean, we had it with Bolly, didn't we? The Wolves-Leicester game last week. I feel a bit sorry for Man City. I shouldn't do, because they'll probably win the league pretty comfortably. And I've, as a Spurs fan, going there and getting a point was brilliant. And the conversation, I think, needs to move away from VAR, because the decision is being bannered as VAR's causing the issue, but it's not. It's the rule. How he's meant to. It's purely accidental. I don't even think that it looks almost like he's looking at the ground. So I don't know how he knows the ball's going to hit his hand. But by the letter of the law, if it hits your hand,
even if it's an accident,
and it leads to a goal, it's going to be disallowed.
It's tough. It is a tough decision, and it's one of those. If it goes against you, it is hard to take, but. Obviously, with the introduction of VAR now, you can't really question it. It is handball at the end of the day. If VAR wasn't there, it probably wouldn't have been noticed. And if you were a Tottenham fan and there wasn't VAR, you probably would have been pretty unhappy. So, but obviously, this is the second time it's happened to Man City against Tottenham. Now, obviously, it happened in the Champions League last season, wasn't it, when
Llorente scored? But I can't. I almost kind of think that it will even itself out. There's going to be something that's going to come back.
And the thing is,
Spurs,
it's a big talking point at the moment, because it is new in the Premier League. It's a new addition to this season. Give it 6-7 games, and people will it will just be the norm. But I know I've heard some people say that it takes a bit of the character out of the game, but it's one of those, like, people before VAR were always complaining that decisions were going against them when it was a clear foul, clear handball.
But that's the thing. That's the thing.
Yeah. So.
It's either one way or the other.
Oh yeah,
VAR is getting 100% of decisions correct as per the rules of the game. Spurs are almost becoming Man City's bogey side. When there was a good, not to steal your thunder for Wonders of the White later, but there's a stat around the last 4 or 5, maybe even 6 meetings that Spurs have had with Man City, there's only been a goal in it in each game. Which, playing City, I think that's pretty good, really. And Spurs have won a few, and obviously got a couple of draws as well. Just on the game, for me, I think we were lucky. Spurs were really lucky. Man City were absolutely on fire. And I think there's a lot of teams that will go to Man City and sort of take a bit of a hiding this year, but we were a bit lucky, but we'll take that point. I think you've got to take that point all day long. So unfortunately, it probably will be remembered for the last sort of couple of minutes, and I do feel for the fans that are there that you almost feel like you can't celebrate the goal until VAR's had a look at it and it's confirmed it. But
I think it's worse just because of the timing it happened as well. If it's the middle of the game, it's not too bad. But literally the pretty much last, I know they did have one more attack after it, but it is probably hard to swallow if you were there in the stadium. You've just celebrated your team winning the game, what you think they've won the game, but obviously for them it to be chalked off. So But
Spurs will be the happiest. Yeah, Spurs will be the happier
Oh,
of the
definitely,
two.
yeah.
We'll move on. So we'll head down to St Mary's for Southampton v Liverpool. Obviously, Liverpool coming off the back of the Super Cup in midweek. Unfortunately, Chris, you are unable to call Chelsea the best team in Europe.
Second best team in Europe? Is that allowed?
Well, everybody's Pep Guardiola was calling Spurs the second best team in Europe after runners up. But there you go. So yeah, I mean, Liverpool didn't have a lot of time turnaround wise for this game, but they still got the 3 points with a 2-1 win.
There was a few things in this one. The Adrian blunder was probably one of the highlights for me. I think
keeper's got it in them, though, haven't they?
Yeah, definitely.
It's just because he saved a penalty to win them the Super Cup, and then he's made a mistake. Why it's been blown up into such a big thing. But every keeper does it.
See, the other thing I would say is Southampton were dramatically better. I know they lost the game, but they were a lot better than what they were last week. Last week they were really, really bad, but this week I thought they played I thought in stages of the game they played quite well.
They should have got a point. Danny's missed that.
Yeah.
I do not know.
But
I'd agree with you. I think Saints were a little bit better. I thought Liverpool were slightly poorer than they were against Norwich, but I'd almost kind of put that down to a hangover from travelling and that in the midweek. Their defence it concerns me a little bit if I was a Liverpool fan. I think it's almost the same as the Norwich game. Saints went at Liverpool quite hard early on, and they look like they could be a little bit wobbly. Maybe it's just because the start of the season. I'm not sure, but
maybe.
The one thing for me, Chris, I was thinking about this front three of Liverpool: so Mane, Firmino, and Salah. Who for you is the most important? Because there's a lot of talk about
Firmino.
Do you think? Because there's a lot of talk about Liverpool's squad being possibly quite light, and if one of those three was to get injured, that they would struggle.
Firmino is kind of the gel that he's the centre forward in that team. I think he complements the other two nicely, and I think when they're playing someone like Origi, I don't feel that they play as well, Salah and Mane, when they don't have Firmino there. That's my opinion. Mane is scoring a lot of goals at the moment. Don't get me wrong, but I think I reckon Firmino is probably Liverpool's most important player.
Yeah, I almost thought that a lot of if you a handful of people that they would go for Salah. Personally, for me, it's Mane. I think he's the one they would miss the most.
His goals, I think
if he was injured.
Goals, yeah. I think I'm not sure what it is with Salah at the moment. He just, he had that really, really good season, didn't he? First season for Liverpool.
You're always going to be,
Now he's kind of in that shadow now, isn't he? He's kind of.
You can't sustain that. You can't sustain that over.
Well, saying that, he did.
3 or 4
he was
seasons.
Like joint top scorer or second top scorer last season.
Yeah, he was, but he was unplayable the year before. He was so good, which was a bit of a surprise, I think. But yeah, Liverpool 2 from 2. Saints yet to register a point, but I worry a little bit for Southampton. I think they need to sort of be a little bit more consistent. Maybe it's they did take a bit of a battering at Burnley. Maybe it's because of that. So on to Carrow Road. So Premier League football returned to Norwich this weekend.
Delia was happy. I've seen her at the game.
Loving
life.
Was. So I've got a couple of bits on here for me. Obviously, Pukki's hat trick. I didn't realise this. 33 goals in 45 games he got last season.
Yeah, and he was a free signing as well.
Yeah, and I don't even think you can say, well, it was in the Championship. The Championship is a difficult league, so 33 and 45 is a really good return.
4 and 2 is pretty good as well, to be fair.
Wow, yeah, it is, yeah. So just your view, because I kind of blame you. I blame you slightly just for this point, Chris, because I was going to have Newcastle to go down this year in our predictions.
Yeah, I did sway your decision.
You did sway me with their signings, but they look awful. Yeah. So defend your decision.
Well, it's a bit hard to at the moment. They do need to sort it out very, very quickly, because the games against Norwich, they are the games that Newcastle need to be winning. Otherwise, they will find themselves in what you thought might happen to them. They might, they could get relegated. And you're right, the new signings that for me haven't really shone at all. But they were poor. They were really bad.
But have they gone from? This might not sound right, but I know they lost to Arsenal on the opening day, but 1-0 against Arsenal, you could probably see that as not being a terrible result. And I thought Newcastle played all right last week, but
yeah, they were a lot better against Arsenal than what they were against Norwich.
But to your point, these are the games they should be winning. I mean, what summed it up for me, and I don't want to take anything away from Pukki getting his hat-trick or the assist that was made for his third goal, because I thought Norwich played really well. But the third goal was a part, the pass that went into him took 3 Newcastle defenders out of the game. And it wasn't a defence-splitting world-class pass that you would expect from like De Bruyne or David Silva or Messi or someone like that. It was a straightforward pass into his feet, but it just took 3 Newcastle players out of the play completely, and they just looked lost at the back. And I mean, they might have even been a bit lucky, to be honest, that it was only 3-1, which I think Norwich play attacking football. They showed that last week against Liverpool. Yeah, they've certainly come up playing the same way that they played. And Newcastle shouldn't have expected anything different. They were poor. I thought they were really poor.
And for Norwich as well, like second half against Liverpool last week, they weren't that bad. They were actually quite good. And I think that they've kind of gone on from their second half performance last week and started in the same sort of manner. But I can tell you now, Pukki won't be scoring this weekend anyway. So we'll get that out of your head. No more goals this weekend, please.
Good link there, Chris.
Oh,
so we'll,
I didn't even realise.
We'll move on to Chelsea Leicester now. I just want to clear something up with you, Chris, because obviously we've spoke quite a lot.
I don't think we've spoken at all about this.
Before the podcast. So you said to me earlier this week you're happy with the point because last year Leicester beat you at home, so it's an improvement. Would you please elaborate that you're happy with a point at home to Leicester?
So before the game on Sunday, I guess I said to myself in a not so weird way that I'd be happy with a point. They beat us, last year at Stamford Bridge, so getting a point, it wasn't actually that bad, I didn't think. And to be fair, we were probably lucky not to lose the game. So I think if you saw the second half of the match, I think any Chelsea fan would probably say that a point wasn't actually that bad because it could have been a lot worse.
But I think Chelsea should surely be striving for more. So
we did. First 20 minutes of the game, we were really good.
You were against United as well, but that didn't turn out too good. I mean, where do you stand on Giroud starting? So what do you think that does for Tammy Abraham? So he gets the start against United first game of the season. The way Lampard's playing, it's pretty clear he wants to try and sort of get some of the youngsters in, get them game time, get them experience. But Where do you think? How do you think Tammy Abraham sort of would feel about that, starting the first game and then the first next game at home, he's not starting?
He's got, there's other players in the squad. He's not. Giroud played on Wednesday. He started on Wednesday, and Giroud was actually one of our best players on Wednesday in the Super Cup. So I think that's probably why he's gone with Giroud on the Sunday. But
But do you think?
Abraham's got to understand he's not going to be playing every single game. We've got Batshuayi coming back.
But do you think Giroud is a starting striker? I mean,
no, he is better coming off the bench.
Remember him maybe in his last season, he was always coming off the bench. Yeah. For Chelsea last season, he was always coming off the bench. Is he good enough to start?
I think he's good enough to start. I think he is. He's someone there that you can target. He's good at bringing the ball down. He's good at holding up the play for players like Pulisic and Pedro running through. Yeah, I didn't think he played all right on Sunday.
I don't want to keep going on about the same subject, but I worry about your goals. I worry where they're going to come from.
That's sure. Next week. Don't worry.
Well, we'll see. One thing for me that stood out for me in this game was, especially like you say, second half was. I think Leicester probably will feel quite unlucky not to have won the game.
Maddison
yeah, he should have done. And a lot of their play was coming down their left to Chelsea's right. Azpilicueta. So he's coming for a bit of criticism, especially from Graham Souness, sort of over the last couple of weekends. But one thing that, for me, in the first half, he was really good going forward. He was getting a lot of balls into the box. He was pushing high up the field. Second half, he was getting torn to pieces down the Leicester left by Christian Fuchs, I think it was. So it sort of sticks out to me that he's an attacking fullback, but he's not that great at defending. Educate me, Chris.
Azpilicueta, it's probably one of our best defenders.
Then you're in trouble. Then you're in trouble this year.
Who said that?
It just stuck out. No, I've said that. No, that's my own analysis. That's from watching the highlights. Watch it back. All the play in the second half was going down Leicester's left, that's where they were getting most of their.
He played 120 minutes in Turkey on Wednesday.
Well, I noticed it, and I'm not even a Premier League manager, so that's where I would have been sort of focusing my play down the left.
Right, next.
Okay, we have to move on from Chelsea. So we'll stay in London. Arsenal v Burnley. So Arsenal's best start to a Premier League season in 10 years. Which is quite surprising, really, because I don't want to sort of take anything away from them, but they've won their first two games, so we're pretty much saying they haven't done that for the last 10 years, which is, for Arsenal, is pretty surprising. I thought Danny Ceballos played really well. I think he
looks like he's going to be a good player.
Yeah, he's going to be a good signing for them. And I think we obviously we've had a bit of a pop at VAR maybe, but it worked well in this one. I thought for Reece Nelson's Arsenal's second goal, which was disallowed for offside, was offside. Yeah, great decision. The linesman had his flag up, to be fair, so I mean he called it anyway. So it was a great shout from the assistant referee.
Nice finish from Aubameyang, must say.
Nice. He's a player. I like that. I know last week I said how much I like the Leicester front four. I'm the same with Arsenal, really. Aubameyang, Lacazette, Ceballos, Pepe looks good. I mean, I think that they're going to be a threat going forward this year, Arsenal.
Not so much at defending, though.
Well, David Luiz was up to his old tricks again. But I think he might turn out to be a good signing. I think he might be one that. Would you have him or Zuma? Who do you prefer?
Zuma.
Really?
Yeah. Next.
Chris isn't taking the Chelsea criticism
No.
very well. But no, a good win for Arsenal. Burnley, they look a completely different team now. They haven't got Europa League to worry about.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to do all right this year. It's good to see Nick Pope getting a running goal as well. I thought he played well that game. He kept the score down, but Burnley will be all right. So Villa Park, Bournemouth. Bournemouth were the team that I tipped to go down instead of Newcastle. And they got 4 points from their first 6. So
there's no greater way to start a game than giving a penalty away in the first 2 minutes, though, is there?
Well, I don't think you can in any league, but in the Premier League, you can't give a team a 2-0 lead within the first 10 minutes and sort of expect to win the game. It's a bit of a. He's got to stay on his line, surely. I'm not sure what he's doing because he's almost like edging out really slowly, trying to usher the player away from goal, and then just sort of takes him out. And then a great goal from, was it Wilson, Harry Wilson?
Yeah, I think it was bettered though by Douglas Luiz's goal for Villa.
That was a goal.
Jesus,
that was a goal. But so, question for you, Chris: are Villa the new Fulham? If you look at Sheffield United and Norwich, they've both got points on the board. But
I thought they'd be fine this season, but I'm really starting to doubt whether I was actually wrong about that because Norwich haven't signed anyone really, have they? And Villa have brought in quite a few new players. So
I mean, they've had pre-season with the players, so it's not as if they've sort of come in and they've only had a week to adjust. I think. The Spurs game was almost a bit of a free hit for Villa. I don't think anyone really expected them to win that, although they were leading for so long that maybe they may feel that it was points dropped. But it's almost like with Newcastle and Norwich, I think these are the sort of games that Villa need to be picking up points in if they're going to stay. I think they'll be okay, and I think out of the 3, they were the ones that I thought would be most comfortable in the division. But 2 defeats in a row, I think they've got Everton on Friday night. So I mean, that's not going to be an easy game. If they don't take anything out of that first 3 games, no points. The pressure's going to be on. Maybe John Terry should play.
Probably should.
Well, you've perked up now. We've praised the
Chelsea
JT, player.
Yeah, mentioned JT. I'm all ears now,
mate. So we'll move on to another promoted side in Sheffield United. So just on the point of new signings, Sheffield United had 1 new signing in their starting 11. So the other 10 were all playing for them in the Championship last year. Yeah. First game at Bramall Lane. Back in the Premier League, 1-0. Do you think they deserved it?
Yeah, I thought they deserved the win. To be fair, I thought they were I thought Palace were really weak going forward. Same questions that we had last year, really, about their striking options. Benteke. I'm not really too sure about him. I know Connor Wickham came on as well second half, but I know they've got Zaha. But he needs something in there for him to aim for. Benteke just doesn't look that interested, to be fair. But taking nothing away from Sheffield United, a great start for them this season, and I thought they rightly deserved to win that game.
Yeah, I thought that they played with a high intensity, and I was quite surprised they maintained it. I think they were first to every ball, that you could tell they wanted it more than the Palace players. I was a bit disappointed with Zaha, to be honest. I was kind of in 2 minds about whether he was well marshalled by the Sheffield United defence, or I don't want to say he's sulking, or almost like he doesn't want to be there, because he didn't seem his usual self. And I thought that would probably be the sort of game where he would grab it by the scruff of the neck and he would be the difference. But I don't really think. I mean, some people put the Sheffield United goalie in the team of the week, and I'm not really. I don't
He
recall
didn't
him
really
having
have
that.
that much of a good
No,
season.
I mean, Lloris was getting peppered from all angles. I'm not saying he should have
Yeah.
been in a team of the week, but I'm not sure why the Sheffield United keeper made it in. But
Mm.
4 points from 2 games for Sheffield United. I think that they'll be a difficult team to beat at home. They are doing what Newcastle and Villa aren't, where they're picking up points in the games that you would think they should be. So a good win. So we'll move on to last night's action. Wolves, Man United. So United
Game.
dropping
Yeah.
2 points from Pogba missing the penalty. I kind of thought a draw was a fair result.
It was a fair. It was literally like a game of two halves, really, because Man United dominated the first half, and Wolves pretty much dominated the second half. They brought on Traore at half-time, Wolves, and they look like a completely different team. He is fast and he's well built. That lad. I think they subbed it up on commentary last night. He has got the physique of a rugby player. But no, I thought Man United should have scored 2 or 3 in the first half. I know they're scoring goals, but they are quick going forward. But I still think they needed to buy another striker, someone to bring on if they need them, because I can't see anyone coming on making an impact. Mata came on last night. He wasn't that great, to be honest. But taking nothing away from Wolves, the goal, the Ruben Neves goal was a really nice goal. It's kind of like his trademark sort of finish, isn't it? Like scoring from outside the box. But no, I still got questions around Man United's defending. I thought there was a few times last night where Maguire passed it back to De Gea and he just didn't get enough on there and almost got caught out. But
I mean,
I thought Wan-Bissaka, though, I have to say, first 2 games, he's, for me, probably been one of the better signings of the season from the Premier League.
I think he's going to be. Just on your point around someone for United to bring on, I almost thought that Daniel James was going to be that type of player.
We started. That's the problem. And he's not...
but that's what I mean. I mean, with his pace, I know he got booked for simulation yesterday, didn't he? Which is a bit disappointing, especially with VAR. You're not going to get away with things like that. But I mean, I'm not really able to criticise. I'm not a professional footballer blessed with his type of pace, but I almost saw him playing that role this season, where he would be coming off the bench as almost like an impact player, a bit of the way Traore does for Wolves, because he is quick as well. That's almost what he does for them. But I do kind of worry about what United's plan B is. If Martial's not firing or if Rashford's not firing, reports seem to suggest that Sanchez is off to Inter. Whether that'll actually happen or not, you won't know till it happens. But to me, that saves them on their wage bill. I almost, there's part of me that almost thinks that keeping him would be the right thing to do, because
it's hard though, isn't it? Like, because
the saving
of
the money. No, but he's another option. But I don't think Rashford's not an out-and-out striker, and neither's Martial. Neither of them are. They haven't got a proper, what you would call a proper number 9. So I just think United aren't short of a few quid, and I know Sanchez is on an astronomical amount of money, but there's got to be a case to say, well, you might as well keep him because he gives you another option, which they haven't got at the moment, I don't think.
They are a bit thin, attacking-wise on the bench, aren't they? That's the thing.
I mean, that's the other prediction I would change. I had United finishing 4th. I'd take them out and put Arsenal in, but unfortunately, I've got to stick with what is out on social media now. I can't really change my mind, but I would have Arsenal in 4th ahead of United. But Wolves, both will be all right. To me, they're difficult to predict because I'm not totally sure where United are going to finish up, and Wolves with the Europa League. It depends on to what degree a distraction it is on whether they have as good a season.
But they have quite a big
as
squad
last season.
So
yeah, no, they have. They've got a decent squad, so we'll see. So, penultimate game, Goodison Park, Everton v Watford. Do you know Everton haven't conceded at home for their last, I think it's 6 or 7 games. Did you know that?
Is that
stolen your thunder?
No, you're all right. You're safe with that one.
And they've played Chelsea, Arsenal, United in that run, and Liverpool.
It was the end of last season, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They had that good run. I will say this wasn't the most entertaining game to watch.
No, it wasn't. That's why it's second to last on our
highlights
on our
were sparse, to say the least. But Bernard scored a nice little solo goal. But I have actually got a question for you, actually. Do you think that we've overlooked Watford to struggle this season?
Yes.
Because when we mentioned at the start of the season teams we thought we would struggle, Watford, I don't think were in that conversation. I didn't personally say them, but they look very low on morale, I would say. They don't look like they're connecting very well. It seems very strange. And
I don't think they'll struggle in the regards of they're going to be in a relegation battle.
No.
But I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year. And I mean, let's not forget. I mean, they got to the FA Cup final, albeit they did take a battering against Man City. But I almost think that adding to how they were in the league, plus the fact they got to the cup final, made them an extremely attractive proposition for a team that have overachieved or a team that has had a fantastic season.
Yeah,
I think they were poor against Brighton, but if the handball against Murray had been given, then it's a completely different game. I thought they were pretty poor against Everton. For me, Ben Foster's got to be doing better for the goal. Getting beaten at his near post, you can tell he's frustrated with it.
But the defense didn't really help him out by just letting.
No, it didn't, and
it's just
it didn't help for an entertaining game that the goal was so early. I agree with you. I don't think it was a great watch, but I think I was quite critical of Everton last year, and the one thing I would say is, if they're going to be hard to score against, which is being proven in the amount of clean sheets that they're keeping, they only need the odd goal. They're going to almost be like the Arsenal of sort of 10, 15 years ago, where they'll just keep churning out 1-0 wins and they'll almost go under the radar and maybe be challenging for top 6 or top 4 this season.
This is what Tim Cahill said on Match of the Day on Sunday, that he feels now is the time for Everton to push on. They've had the investment, they've got the players that they wanted. Now is the time. That Keane, I've said it last week, that Moise Keane, he will be a top striker for them.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I put him in my fantasy team. I totally agree. I think he's going to be a really good player. I think once he starts scoring, I don't think he's going to stop. And I'd keep an eye out for Everton this year. I mean, they'd be a team that I'd almost fancy for a cup. I think if they get that confidence and they continue to keep clean sheets and they continue to get points. I know they drew last week, but I mean they're still 4 points from 2 games, no goals against. They're doing all right. Watford will be okay, but I just think if you're expecting them to do what they did last year, I don't think they will.
No.
Yeah. Okay, so the last game, Brighton v West Ham. Again, not a hugely entertaining spectacle.
The only thing I've taken from this game, right, that Brighton have got a guy up front called Trosser, which for a commentator is probably a nightmare, because if you get that one wrong, Trossard, you know, you might not be commentating on football for much longer.
Nothing on the game, Chris.
Yeah, his goal was good actually. For the Brighton equaliser, his goal was good. Obviously, VAR ruled out the first Brighton goal.
Rightly so.
But yeah, Trossard. That's a warning to all you commentators.
Watch out on that one. The thing for me, and I'm wondering whether West Ham are going to replace Everton as my team to sort of pick on this year. I just think they're going to be as frustrating as they are every other season. West Ham, they've got the players, they've got a good squad, they've made good summer signings. Yeah. 1 point from 2 games. I think they're going to flatter to deceive again.
Out of the top 6, they've probably got the best squad, I reckon, or one of the best squads in the league. If you take the top 6, so
yeah,
must be frustrating to be a West Ham fan because they've got the potential there. It's just trying to get that across on the pitch, I suppose.
Yeah, I agree. So that concludes the Premier League review. What we've learned from that is that Chris does not take criticism very well of his side. You're very protective, Chris, aren't you? Especially over Azpilicueta. I can't even say his name.
Yeah, just Dave.
Yeah, we'll call him Dave. Dave. Anyway, watch it back, and you'll see that I'm right. Anyway, so that's the end of part 1. So we'll be back in part 2 for the EFL review, including Yeovil Watch, an update on the predictions challenge, Chris's stat of the week, and we'll have a go at answering the teaser. So see you in part 2. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of View from the Sideline podcast. So we're going to dive straight into the EFL review covering the action from the weekend. So we'll start in the Championship where Sheffield Wednesday and Charlton both lost their 100% records at the weekend. Sheffield Wednesday went down 1-0 away at Millwall and Charlton got a point in a 2-2 draw away at Barnsley. So both of those results meant Leeds are now top of the table. They beat Wigan 2-0 away. Wigan ending up with 10 men. Leeds now sit on 7 points with 2 wins and a draw and are one of 5 other teams on 7 points. So you've got Charlton, West Brom, Swansea, Millwall and Leeds all with 2 wins and a draw from their first 3 games. At the bottom, Stoke claimed their first point of the season with a 2-2 draw at home to Derby. But they're joined in the relegation zone by Huddersfield and Middlesbrough, who also only have 1 point from their first 3 games. Got some big teams in the relegation zones in the Championship, and also Huddersfield sacked their manager. So Jan Siewert...
Well, he hasn't won since eternity, has he?
Well, 1 win in 19 was his record there. So, to be honest, I'm not hugely surprised.
I think that speaks for itself, really.
When he took over, I think Huddersfield must have maybe they
were all but down.
Knew that they were down, so he had a bit of breathing space, but hasn't started well for Huddersfield in the Championship. So on to League One, Lincoln and Blackpool, they did maintain their 100% records. Lincoln thrashed Southend 4-0 and Blackpool beat Oxford 2-1. So both teams are now 2 points clear at the top. Wickham are in 3rd, Coventry are in 4th. Both teams have 7 points after winning at the weekend. Fleetwood and Rotherham are the other 2 teams in the playoff places, both on 6 points from their first 3 games. At the bottom, so the bottom 2 haven't moved. Bury are still yet to play a game. I think there's a decision on Friday I've read that will actually decide the future of the club, whether they had a bid for the club
today, but it was turned down. So I'm not sure what happened there.
It's strange, isn't it? Just there was a bit of a lively debate on Talk Sport during the week. I don't know if you've heard about this, but one of the Bury players was on, as was the owner.
It's just the owner where they say he hadn't been paid or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I mean,
Bit
obviously,
awkward.
without knowing the full details, I think it's actually the PFA that have paid the players,
Yes, yeah.
but the owner is saying that he's paid them, but he's paying the PFA back, but apparently has no money. Anyway, it's not a good situation. And I mean, if that's right, where the decision's on Friday about whether they're going to continue to exist or not, I think we should keep everything crossed that they do, because no one wants to see Bury no longer being a football league club. So I mean, as far as league positions are concerned, they're still on -12. As we say, they're yet to play a game. Bolton, who are due to play tonight, but that's been postponed. So they lost 5-0 against Tranmere at the weekend. So they remain on -11. But at least they're playing. I mean, I guess that's something.
It got called off tonight, didn't it? Because of welfare issues, isn't it?
Yeah, because of the young age of the players.
Yeah.
I think they're worried they're going to burn out or something. Southend, they're in 22nd. They haven't managed to register a point after their 3 games. Again, they lost to Lincoln at the weekend. There's 5 teams on 1 point, including Gillingham and Accrington, but they've only played 2 games, whereas everyone else has, well, the other teams at the bottom have played 3 because both were due to play Bury early on in the season, but obviously they haven't been fulfilled. So that's the Championship and League One. Chris, you got League Two for
League
us?
Two. Yep. So no team has 100% record in League Two anymore. Second and third place last week, Exeter and Swindon actually played each other at the weekend and they drew 1-1. So they're unbeaten, but their 100% records are gone. So Swindon have actually gone top and Exeter are just behind them in second. Forest Green remain unbeaten. They beat Grimsby by 1-0, so they're up to third place. So Sol Campbell left Macclesfield this week, and they got a nice win away to Northampton, 2-1. They're actually up into fourth place now. So, after all their struggles last season, they're not doing too bad at the moment. So
I'm a bit sad Sol Campbell's gone.
It's to do with money, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think he was after a chance of management for so long, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And I know it's probably not footballing reasons why he's gone, but he was doing a good job.
Well, they're fourth now, so. Last week's leaders, Plymouth, down to fifth. They lost to Newport by 1-0. Crewe are sixth. They beat Walsall 1-0. And Bradford are holding on to the last playoff place. They thrashed Oldham 3-0. Oldham are actually bottom of the league. They're the only team in League Two to record a point. Scunthorpe, the other team in the relegation zone, but they did manage to pick up their first point after a 2-2 draw with Crawley. And Stevenage are hovering just above them, also on 1 point, but no goals scored for Stevenage so far this season. So yeah, so on to the National League. Well, I say National League, just Yeovil.
Just Yeovil. As far as we're concerned, they're the only team in the league.
So yeah, well, not a great weekend for Yeovil. It was a really, really poor performance. And the worst thing about it is everyone got to watch it because it was on BT Sport. It didn't really show.
The players didn't turn up for the cameras.
Yeah. It was a real chance as well to keep the momentum going after a good start to the season. I don't actually recall them having a decent shot on target either, so it was a really, really poor game, and I didn't get to watch the City Tottenham game because it was on at the same time. So
you're really selling the BT Sport subscription to people.
Hopefully, they got
subscribe to BT Sport. You can see totally rubbish football.
So they've got Maidenhead this weekend. It's a double header this weekend because of the bank holiday. So they've got games on Monday as well. But they're 12th in the league now, so they went from 7th to 12th. They are
on or around mid-table.
So yeah, not the worst start in the world. Could be better. But they need to be playing. But they need to be playing a lot better from what I saw on Saturday.
B-. B-. Okay, that's great. So next week, obviously, we'll let you know how they got on in that game. They're not on BT, are they, Chris? They're not on BT, so it should be a pretty entertaining game. So we'll move on from the EFL review. We'll just touch on predictions. I wish we could spend more time on this, but you may have seen on social media that we've had our second ever nil point in predictions. So congratulations to
technically
Lewis.
Slightly worse because there is another way to score points this season through the golden goal.
We can say that if you want to say that. That's absolutely.
It was worse
absolutely
than Adam's
fine.
last season.
So officially the worst ever score in our
Hall of
predictions
shame.
challenge. So thanks, Lewis, for taking part. That's
great effort.
That's probably where our thanks stops. But so I came out on top this week, 25 points.
Good scores.
So I currently sit. We haven't published the table because there's only 4 of us in it at the moment. But I'm currently top, so I've got an average of 20. Chris only got 6 points this week, which you could try harder.
Yeah.
So this week the Wags are back. So this week my significant other Jodie is the guest. She's picked Yeovil as the golden goal match, Chris. But only because when I read the matches out to her, she said, "Oh, I'll pick that because Chris likes Yeovil." So that's why she's picked it. So we'll obviously, as the weekend goes on, we'll see how the scores are going, and then depends on who wins, depends whether we publish them or not.
Depends whether Rich is back next week.
Yeah, but she did beat me last year.
Yeah,
so,
she did.
I mean, she did.
This is a big
be
one
used
for you,
to
mate,
it.
because
It is, but yeah. It's about the taking part. That's the bit that counts. So that's predictions challenge.
To your wife when she beats you.
So Chris, the wonder of white. Wow us.
Want some stats? I got some stats. So again, I've got 4 again this week. So the first one is Pukki is the first Norwich player to score a Premier League hat-trick since Efan Okoku did in 1993. What a player, Efan Okoku. Look at that, what a player.
That is a blast from the past.
Efan Okoku stat, that is, as well.
That's a good stat.
Start? Yeah, good start.
Yeah, good start. I'll give you that one.
Kevin De Bruyne has assisted more goals in his first 2 Premier League games of this season than he did in 19 appearances in the Premier League last season. So he's assisted 3 goals this season, and in 19 appearances last season, he only assisted 2, which I was astounded when I heard that.
That's a good stat if it's true.
It is true. What do you mean? Of course it's true.
Yeah, but you even said yourself. I mean, that's hard to believe.
Yeah,
but 19 games, he only assisted 2 goals.
But he could have only been on for 5 minutes in some of those games. He was injured a lot last season, so we'll let him off.
I'll give you that one as well.
Paul Pogba has missed 4 penalties in the Premier League since the start of last season. That is the most by any player in the competition. So.
They should have signed Mihailovic.
Yeah.
Mihailovic from Palace. Their penalties have dried up. Yeah, he's got a good record.
So
that's a good one.
The last one. So this is a bit different. So the Corinthians.
Is it about Dave, the Chelsea defender?
No, it's women's football.
No.
So the Corinthians women team have equalled the world record for the most top-flight consecutive wins. They now share the record with TNS, and will beat the record if they can beat Sao Jose tomorrow night.
What is the record?
16 or 17. Can't remember.
Consecutive wins?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I tell you what, but City couldn't have been far off that, because didn't they win their last 14? last season. So then West Ham would have been their 15th.
Yeah, I think it's 17 or 18, something like that. But yeah, they share the record now.
So Spurs are the breaker of records. Oh, well, the record enders.
Corinthians women's will hold the world record if they win tomorrow night.
And the TNS who currently hold the record, that's the men's team, is it?
That's the Welsh, the New Saints, I think that stands for.
That's a good one, Chris.
So yeah, so I will tweet out
four solid stats there. Yeah, let us know how they get on.
How they get on if they break the record and what their record actually is. It might be more than that, but I
expect you'll be watching it. You watch a lot of football, don't you?
Yeah. 1 in the morning, I don't have anything else to do.
Okay, so Wonders of White. It's working well. I like that.
There you go. I was a bit worried, but
I like it. Your crust will keep you, I think.
Oh, thank you.
So, how many Spanish managers have won the FA Cup? So let's get rid of the.
Let's just get him.
Okay. He wasn't the obvious one for me.
Oh.
The obvious one was Pep because they won it last year.
Pep, Rafa.
Okay. So, this is moving quicker than I thought.
Was he at Wigan when they won it, Martinez?
He was, yeah. You're good at this.
Yes, I just got cramp in my toe. That almost went bad then. Okay, Rafa, Pep, Martinez.
I almost want to stop there.
Oh.
Because if you think... Well, let's quickly try and whittle it down. So, Arsene Wenger, Alex Ferguson...
Is this all time?
Did Benitez win it with Liverpool or Chelsea?
Liverpool, because they won
So then you've had Ancelotti... He won it, Denis, Mourinho, neither of which are Spanish. Ferguson, Arsene Wenger. Who else has been at Liverpool that might have won it?
Probably you have to go right back, aren't you?
Yeah, but they didn't have Spanish managers then. I think we could. Let's keep with those three.
You think those three, yeah?
Well, yeah. I mean, in the interest of time as well. Are you on it?
I can be. Yep. 2 seconds.
So we've got Liverpool, Wigan, Man City. So I think any of the other teams that you could. I mean, it's probably shared between 5 or 6 teams. I'm not sure any. We can take Spurs out of it. Because it was Terry Venables the last time we won it. So Spurs are out. City, Mancini, no. Who's been at City? Pellegrini, Hughes. No, I think we stick with those.
Yeah, okay. This might be a bit more difficult to find out than actually what we thought.
I think we stick with those. I think they're they're a solid 3. Do you want me to?
Yeah, you might have to help because.
Okay, I'm on it. Hold on. Right, I'm going right back to 1872 here, so we should have everybody covered. Right, okay, so they're pretty much all English and Scottish. There's one Northern Ireland, Terry Neal for Arsenal in 79, up until Hullett in 97, who was the first foreign coach. So we've got Benitez in 06 with Liverpool.
Yeah. Martinez
13 with Wigan.
19 got it. I think we got it right.
Yeah, it's those 3. Well,
they are Pete.
Good teamwork.
Done it.
Don't say that. We'll get an immensely difficult one next week. Okay, I think we're 2 for 2. 2 for 2.
Yeah, because we got France. It was the Daily Fail that got it wrong.
Yeah, that is for forever what they'll be known as. Okay, so I think that pretty much covers it for this week. just want to say thanks again to everybody who's listening and subscribing and sort of leaving reviews and that. It's really appreciated.
Getting involved.
Getting involved. The first episode for this season's gone pretty well, so pretty decent numbers. So yeah, just thanks to everyone. And Chris, I think you've got something to say.
Yep. So the podcast is officially 1 year old on Friday. So
happy birthday to us.
A party. So yeah. So So it's been. Yeah, it hasn't really felt like a year, has it? But so when we next do the podcast, we'll be over a year old.
That's something to celebrate.
So yeah.
Okay, so yeah, thanks again, everyone, for listening, and enjoy your week, and we'll speak to you next week.
See you next week.